Hello, everyone. I know that you are slowly coming in, but welcome. Awesome. I'm not seeing anyone from my side yet, so I know it's slowly coming in. There we go. Hello, Princeton. Hello, Alexandra. I have been doing fine, Princeton. Doing really, really well. I'm so glad you were able to join us. Hi, Bridget. Thank you so much for joining. How are you, Alexandra? So glad to have you join. We're going to give it a few minutes and allow more people to join us. Hi, Roger. Hey, how are you? Oh, I'm so excited you're here as well, Alexandra. Hello. You binged all the episodes to be caught up. I love that. You'll have to share with me privately what are some of the important lessons that you learn that you're going to apply, Alexandra. I would love that. Hello, Nakia, Pooja, welcome. So glad to have you. It feels like it's been forever, but it really hasn't been that long. Hi, Peter. Oh my goodness, I see a lot of wonderful people joining. Hello. Hi, Roger. Blessings to you as well. So glad to have you. Tonight's going to be a good night, y'all. I got someone special. She is a special woman that exists in the world, but she's even more special to me. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's see how many more people are going to. Happy Cinco de Mayo. We have so many people that are planning to join, but I want to make sure I reserve as much time as possible for our special guests. So let me go ahead. Let's give it another minute. Before I jump in, I thought we would do something fun this afternoon, and I thought I would ask you to type two words that describes how you're feeling this evening. So what are two words that describe how you're feeling this evening? And why don't you type it in the chat for me? And I'll tell you what mine are live. Today, I am just feeling energized today. And I would aloha, William, welcome. And the second word that I would use to describe how I'm feeling is intentional. And those are the two words that I would use to describe. So what would you type? Two words to describe how you're feeling this evening or this afternoon, wherever you are in the world. One of them, William says, on fire. I love it. What are two words? Relaxed and blessed. Did Dee put that out there? Others, do you have words you want to share? Two words that describe how you're feeling. I would love for you to type it in the chat. Some of you are probably thinking about it. While you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I really want to welcome all of you for joining our modern mentoring session. And I want you to know that I don't take it for granted that you've created space to be here with us. And it is so important to me that in this community that we are forming here, that we create space to have intimate conversations about how to navigate this thing called the corporate world, but we also have to navigate this thing in life. And a lot of people see them as two completely different things, but I think the pandemic taught us one thing, and that is they can't be treated separately because they all just collided. And now it's about how do we integrate this work part of ourselves with our personal life, and how do we learn to flow in those zones. So I just want to say thank you. I'm grateful that you all joined Modern Mentoring. It was designed as a way to scale my mentoring efforts. And I'm so delighted that you're here to join us today. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Lonnie Phillips. So tonight, we're going to be talking about building resilience during times of disruption. And we have a very special guest. And before I invite her up, I'm going to read her bio, and then I will bring her live. But I want to share this bio with you. And then when she comes on, I'm going to share a personal story because I want to make her blush. All right, so we have with us this evening Dr. Laura Seal, who's the co-founder and CEO of 9Q LLC, a digitally and virtually based training and education company with a purpose to accelerate humanity's transition into purpose-driven and socially conscious organizations. With a master's and doctorates in clinical psychology, a BA and an MBA in business, and more than 25 years experience, Dr. Laura brings her expertise in human behavior, transformation, performance, and business to individuals and teams in a variety of industries to provide tangible, sustainable, and profitable solutions to human challenges. Laura is an entrepreneur and a believer in the value of supporting and expanding human potential for personal, organizational, and community empowerment and improvement. Dr. Laura embraces the opportunities with every challenge and strives to elevate how individuals and teams live, work, and connect. I would like to introduce you all to my friend, Dr. Laura. So let's bring Dr. Laura live. Welcome, my friend.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me, Lonnie.
I'm so glad to have you here. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I want my friends out there, why don't y'all welcome Dr. Laura to Modern Mentoring. Send some love to her out in the chat. While you're doing that, I wanted to share with everyone, that's your formal bio, which is quite illustrious. Wow, lots of education and experience that we can all learn from. That we all can learn from. I really want to share an experience I had with you. You know, there are some people you meet and there are some people you experience. I've experienced you. And I think about the first opportunity I had to experience you. And it was a few years ago. And it was the moment where I entered into a conversation where I felt like that I could be authentically myself. Like I did not need to have on a mask of any kind. And I was standing before experiencing a woman that literally in her own right owned her own confidence in who she was. And she wanted to meet another person and she wanted nothing from me. She just wanted to connect. And I remember after we finished talking, feeling like I've met this woman that I feel like will be in my life for a very long time because it was such an equal exchange of energy. And I felt like our philosophies in life were so similar that it was just something that I can't even find the words and I'm struggling to even share it with everyone. But I want to encourage all of you to find those people in your life that you can experience. And for me, you were an experience. And every time I talk to you, I just feel like not only do you challenge me intellectually, I just feel like you challenge me to be the best version of myself. And I want to say thank you for that.
Lonnie, I don't even know how to respond to that. It's incredibly moving and means so much because I didn't show up 100% as myself for much of my life. And I made a very conscious decision at one point, we'll talk about that a bit more, resilience and all that good stuff, to just be me and do my best every day. And to listen to maybe little prompts, you know, I call it intuition, really listen to them and take action on them, because I think that for so many years of my life, I didn't. And I just got lost on my path. So my intuition said, you're supposed to know this woman. I didn't want or need anything from you. I just felt pulled. And this has been the crazy journey since I really made this mindful decision to do this, you know? hey, I think I don't remember exactly what I said, but just I wanted to connect. I just felt like we were meant to connect. And so every opportunity to speak with you, Lonnie, there's some connection that's beyond what we can describe and maybe the words that we have right now, and any conversation, and now getting to share it with your community and some of my community that's joined us tonight is really special.
Oh, well, I'm just so delighted to have you. So why don't we share it with everyone? And I'd love for you to share.
Yeah.
As we were thinking about our conversation today, one of the things we did was to really set an intention for our conversation. So before we jump in, I'd love for you to share the intention that we set out for the conversation today.
And I love this. And for everyone out there listening, such a powerful thing to really get clear about what your intention is. Look, you guys you're spending, Lonnie and I are spending our time, but you guys are spending your time with us. And we, as Lonnie said earlier, we really honor that you're doing that. You have a million other things that you could be doing. So when we thought about our intentions, the first thing that popped up for me was that everyone leave with a little bit more hope in their hearts, in their souls, when you leave today. And interestingly, Lonnie, when you asked that question early on about how people were feeling, there was some relaxed, motivated, really some great, sound like they were feeling really good. So even if you're having a wonderful day, a little bit more hope and a little bit more excitement and some tactical actions that you can take if you want to build your resilience.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think what we have found through these series is that we share practical tips that they can apply. And I want to encourage everyone, there's only a few tips we're going to cover today, but I want you to write them down, and we wanted to create space so we can have authentic conversation. And so I want you to know that we'll be taking questions throughout the conversation so that if you want to weigh in on a specific point that she's making, we can capture that. And we've got a few people helping us behind the scenes, and I'll continue to monitor chat as well. And I want to say hello to a few people before we jump in. I see Dr. Angela out there. Hello, beautiful. Ernesto, Coach Juan, welcome, welcome, welcome. Janny, welcome. I just want you to know we're glad to have you here. So, Dr. Laura, sorry, I got Dr. Angela on the brain. Dr. Laura, so let's also anchor everyone on a common definition for resilience. How would you define resilience?
Well, this is actually, I found this definition, so I can't take credit for it, but it really resonates with me, and I'll tell you why, but I'm going to read it. I want you to think about just now before I state it, kind of what do you think right now is resilience? Like if you were to describe it to someone, what it would be, and then just check and see, how similar or different. And again, this is a learning opportunity, right? We all get to learn from each other. But I love this definition of resilience as the process. I love learning process. I love continual growth, but the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. So just think about that, because I want to underline it. It's not that you perform a certain way, and there's one way. It's a process. I think that's a really magical and powerful word, because it's in development, right? You always have an opportunity to boost it a little bit more. So it's in process. So if you are look, the entire world's going through something very challenging. So we have multiple layers. We have worldwide, we have community, we have whatever's happening in our organizations, in our families, in our friendships, and in our personal lives, and in our physical, personal lives, our emotional personal lives. And at all levels, there might be a stressor, there might be a tragedy, there might be something really challenging. So think of resilience as the process of adapting.
Process of adapting. And you know what I also think about is with resilience, you develop that really under pressure.
100%. And there's no, I don't know. I used to, when I was younger, I had this somehow weird belief. Maybe someone else can relate to this, that if you do the right things and you're a good person, that you're somehow saved from the bad things. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, but not true. Right, Lonnie?
Yes, not true at all. Not true at all. So I think it would be helpful if you could anchor everyone on that moment when you recognized your own resilience. Do you mind sharing that with the group?
Yeah, and the truth is, I could choose many different scenarios. So I just want people to hear that. There have been many different times in my life where I've been faced with something really challenging, as I'm sure everyone here has at some point in their life.
Yes, how many people are feeling that way? Kind of say, me too.
Yeah.
Or give us a thumbs up. I'm sure we're all feeling that at one point in time.
And it's interesting because sometimes we think if we have one thing happen, we get a break. Sometimes they come all at once. So I know that this year that's happening for a lot of people, just because of everything that's going on related to the pandemic. So for me, this is one moment that for me I highlight because it was the first time I realized that I wasn't really being true to me and living my life. So the learning was incredibly powerful. And I was going along happy. Everything seemed pretty good. Anyone from the outside would think everything was great, business-wise, personally wise. I just had my third child. She was 6 months old. We had just traveled back from a great, vacation. Come home. I always talked to my mom and went to call her. And my dad said, she can't come to the phone, which I knew something was terribly wrong because she would have she would have crawled to the phone to talk to me after us being gone for so many weeks. And I knew something was wrong, but at that point she was still alive. She had had a very small stroke, and my dad didn't even recognize it was a stroke. But the medicine that they gave her to try to help actually killed her. And it killed her just immediately. I mean, within, I think it was 30 minutes. And I just, it's now been 19 years. And I know because my daughter's 19 and my mom died exactly 6 months after my daughter was born. And, I had this little baby nursing and tears were just dripping all over. And I thought, what's the point? Really, it was like, what's the point of all this, right?
Hopelessness is the point, right?
Yeah, what's the point? So in my story, of resilience, now I can say 19 years later, my mom's death was probably the greatest gift that I have ever gotten in my life. And I don't know if you can tell, but I can go very quickly into tears about the experience and all of that. But it's been 19, it's been 19 years, but it was the gift that is so powerful to me. So what happened, what I learned about myself, and I just want everyone listening, I know that you have something that has happened in your life that has touched you this way, right? It doesn't have to look, it's all different. It's for everyone. But I want you to ask yourself, what are you learning, or what did you learn about yourself? And for me, it was a huge wake-up call that I wasn't living my life. I was actually living the life that other people wanted me to live.
Let's pause.
Yeah.
You were living the life that others were wanting you to live. You weren't living your own life. But before I even jump into that, let me just pause and acknowledge that you lost your mom. And I don't care if it was 19 years ago. I've lost count because my mother died when I was 12.
Right.
So I don't care if it was yesterday. Losing your mother is a special person in your life, and I want you to know that I am so sorry for your loss, and I could hear it in your voice how special she was, and I know you, and I know that you were super special, so she must have been an incredible woman. But I think you just said something that's powerful that people need to hear is it's how you have to take that experience and learn.
Yeah.
You
Someone
learn
just
who you learn to, yeah, honor it. Go ahead.
Yeah, someone just wrote honor lost by living, and oh, it was Dr. Angela, of course.
Angela wrote that. Honor lost by living. Yes, Dr. Angela.
And I know that's something that you and I share, right, Lonnie? And so maybe in that whole scheme of things of connection, that was something, you know, something out there in the ether, that in space, that connected us. But it is truly, I thought I could just give up, right? Which I think we can all relate to that feeling. I'm done. Give me, I want to, can I do a do-over, you know, like a real do-over? I'm done. But, you know, honestly, the gift of having my children really helped me to reconnect to, I need to show up for them, right? And my mom was such an amazing mom and such an amazing grandmother that I felt like, whoa, I'd be doing a disservice to her if I just checked out, right? Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm like, definitely the community around you is wanting you to have lots of medication and lots of other ways that you can check out. I actually did the opposite. I actually completely stopped drinking any alcohol. I wanted to become very, very clear about what life is and what it meant to me, kind of what's my whole point of being here? What do I want? Because so many years I was doing what other people, I was really good at doing what the world thought I needed to do.
Yeah. Some of us, there's still a lot of us out there that do that, right? I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
So let's talk through the how. How do you start to build that resilience so that you can move more swiftly through those challenging times? So how did you do that?
Yeah, and you know, and I want to say to anyone listening that wherever you are, because there is a lot of research on resilience, and there is some, they don't know for sure, is it genetic or it might be your upbringing. There is a little bit of, there is a good amount of research showing that there is a spectrum. So we all fall somewhere on that spectrum. Okay, but the good news is I think we can build it. We can build our resilience, and that is exciting. So what I learned in that process, what did I do? I first just decided, if I'm going to live this life, I want to live it. I want to live my life. So then it became a treasure hunt that didn't always lead to really positive things, but sometimes really negative things. You know, more practice for my resilience, let's just say. And so it wasn't like a done and over. It's been a development. So I very consciously am always looking for the learning. So what I like a general, and we can go into specifics. We have some specific tips for you guys, but the bigger general picture is, what's the learning that I can take out of this in order to grow and expand and serve and love and, you know, touch other people's lives in your unique way? What can you get? What can you bring out of this tragedy or this difficulty and move forward? And everyone can ask themselves this question because COVID has impacted us. So given what has happened in the last over a year, you know, what can we learn about ourselves to deepen how we show up in the world and really deepen those relationships? And whatever when I say service, I say it in the way of, you know, it can be work related or it can be community related. It's kind of however you serve the people around you. But how do you learn from, you know, that challenge and move forward in a way that's even better?
I love it. So one of the things I acknowledge is not everybody is great at creating space to just reflect and say, what am I learning, right? A lot of people aren't great at journaling and writing stuff down, but I think that's also something that you probably would encourage more people to do, is to sit in solitude and really sit with yourself, to really analyze your thoughts and experiences and really take the learnings from it so that you can hold on to it. How would we break this down to make it really practical for people so that we can begin to start sharing those quick tips with them? I like your strategy. I like how you think.
Well, this is just it's a way of looking at resilience that we use at our company 9Q. So if you think about purpose, what your purpose is, and we'll say more about this. If you think about your preparation, kind of what is your training and how have you set yourself up? And then you think about performance. How am I showing up in any particular moment? So if you think of those three, and we're going to break down some tips in each of those areas, you have purpose, you have preparation, and you have performance. And look, this is just the way that this is a lens that you can look, there are many different ways. This isn't the one and only right way, but I think it's nice because it separates it, and we can take out purpose first. And a lot of people get a little nervous about that. It's like, I don't know what my purpose is, or how do you find it out?
So that's the deep work. I don't know if I can answer that.
That's what you were just talking about, Lonnie, like, taking the time to reflect. And the truth is, so one tip is definitely, asking yourself, see, it's kind of hard to just say, what's my purpose? So I like to tell people, ask yourself, reflect, and look, I'm not a very good sit still and reflect person. I'm a get out in nature, and as Lonnie knows, hike or walk or, just be in nature. And that's when I can do my reflecting. Like when my body's moving, I can reflect really easily. So trust yourself, listen to your intuition. Some people need quiet space. But instead of asking what's my purpose, which is kind of a scary big question, like we break it down in our trainings, over a period of time. So it's not just one boom. But ask yourself what excites you, what makes you smile, what turns you on, and really just what makes you feel really good. And that's a hint at what your purpose is in there. It's a clue to what your purpose is. So the first tip I would say is really reflect on what really matters to you. What matters, but it's like, what makes your heart happy? It's not just matters like serious. It's like, oh, I feel that makes me feel so good. Like I'm on fire. For me, I love helping people feel better. I love serving individuals and teams. I love helping organizations to feel more streamlined, to feel like that turns me on. I'll be doing it until I can't. That's my purpose, right? So look for those clues about what makes your heart happy.
One thing I say is what makes your heart smile.
What makes your heart smile? Exactly.
Yes, I always think about that thing that makes my heart smile. Yes,
there's so many.
I love that.
All the time we have challenges. So what makes your heart smile? And then the second part in purpose that you can start doing right now is when you are about to do something. I don't know, it could be a conversation with your child, it could be a meeting with your team, it could be an interview, it could be, hey, I haven't seen this person for the last year, but I'm gonna see him, a friend, or, whatever it is, ask yourself, why does this matter to me? To me, why does it matter to me? It's a bit of intention, right? You're setting an intention around an activity, but you're doing it in a way where you're asking yourself, why does this make my heart happy, right?
Look at Bridget Vaughn wrote here. Hi, Bridget.
Oh, Bridget, right?
She wrote volunteering at a food pantry at least twice a month.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. A lot of people give of themselves unselfishly, and they don't realize, because a lot of people ask me about how do you find the time? You and I have had that conversation, to do what I do during the day and to do this on the side. And I had an opportunity to meet with, I'll call them the twins. And today they asked me that question, how do you do that? And I says, well, you make time for the things that matter.
Well, and you need to identify them in order to make the time. Because if we just keep going on, if we don't get clear about what makes our heart happy, what makes our heart smile, or we don't get clear about why we're doing things, then we kind of just got on an automatic pilot. And that's where the burnout, and that's where, the opposite of resilience resides in that. So you do make time when you start identifying the things that make you light up. It energizes you, right? Someone mentioned that volunteering or helping others,
right?
and research shows with depression, one non-medical, non-pharmaceutical way of helping depression is getting outside of yourself and helping others. So
Yes.
there's some research that supports that, you know, but you got to look at what it is in your unique way, because it's not the same for everyone, you
It
know?
is not. It is absolutely not the same. So let's talk about preparation.
Yeah. So the way that we look at preparation at 9Q is we look at a human being or an organization as having many different dimensions, right? And I think most people can relate to this idea. We have our physical body, we have our intellectual, our mental area of who we are. We have the emotional, we have a service, or some people call it spiritual aspect to who we are, and then we call it, and 9Q stands for energetic intelligence. So we call it the energetic quotient of who you are. And for what we mean by that is really, how does everything align? You know, because if you're really strong in one area and you ignore another area, you're not going to feel your best. So the 9Q piece is, how does everything line up? So when you think about preparation, if you were someone, just to give an extreme example, who only focused on, and I know there's no one here, but so we're just going to use an example, that's just only focused on your physical health and nothing else, you could probably pretty quickly see, you know, COVID hits, that preparation isn't going to help you, right? So what you're looking at is, where do I have gaps? Where do I maybe, you know, am I a little weak in how I've developed my relationships, my close relationships? Am I a little weak in how am I really truly using my gifts and using them in my current role to serve at my highest capacity? Or is there something in there, you know, whether it's writing a book or maybe singing for elderly people, you know, I don't know, it can be anything. So kind of doing an inventory and looking at the tip that I would say is, look at all areas of who you are, all areas of your life, not just one or two, and really look at, how could I build myself up, you know, to be stronger and be more resilient and be more adaptive going forward. And for me, in my example, when my mom died, I realized I had completely disregarded my, what we call SQ, spiritual service quotient. I was just doing what other people, you know, I was just doing what I thought I was supposed to do. And I really truly wasn't showing up and serving in my greatest capacity. So then as I started recognizing that, I realized, oh, I need to build up in these other areas. So the tip is, just do a little inventory of where you are right now, what needs your attention, and know that, and then get really clear about, what is that, you know? Do I need to, you know, do some walks, or do some yoga, or do I need to, maybe right now is a time to reassess career trajectory. You know, a lot of people are doing that right now. Kind of, what do I really want? You know, what do I really want to do going forward? So take an inventory and then choose one action that can help build up that ability to be prepared, right?
I love that. And I want to encourage our audience, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. If you want to come live, just let me know. All you have to do is send me a quick chat to let me know you want to come live on LinkedIn. And then I have a team that will send you a link so we can bring you live to ask your question of Dr. Laura. So with that, I want to make sure that we continue. I'm going to pause for a second and see if anyone had any question they wanted to ask you. And I don't see anything on my side, so I would love to keep going. So when you think about performance, what would you share in terms of tips there?
Yeah, and you know, look, we chose that word because 3 Ps makes it easy to remember, you know, purpose, preparation, performance, but that word can have a little bit like, you know, like, oh no, I have to perform. So think of it this way. How am I showing up, right? Like right now, everyone who's here with Lonnie and I, you know, are you showing, most of you, many of you said like open and motivated, and there's that and whether or not you were mindful about, you know, showing up that way, you are. And part of what we train at 9Q is, hey, if you're already doing it, just becoming mindful of it, you're gonna boost the, if you want to, you know, your power it by X whatever, you know, X amount, you know, once you recognize that you're doing it. So when I say performance, it's like, how are you showing up? And most of the time right now, many of us are getting really overwhelmed and stressed. And the answer that I hear, or what I hear a lot in response to that, is yes, because of XYZ, right? So it's because of something external to us. And the truth is, someone in one of our classes this week had a really powerful sentence, and he said he recognized that being in the green zone, which is what we use for feeling good and feeling in flow at our company. So when you know, we all know what it feels like to feel good and everything's just clicking and things are getting done quickly and you're feeling good doing it and you have energy, right?
Right.
This client said he realized one of his learnings was recognizing that being in the green zone is a choice. And I thought, wow, that's really a powerful, simple, powerful way of saying it. Because how are you showing up? Are you racing from one thing to the other and bringing all of that stress into the next meeting and then bringing all of that stress? I mean, imagine what you have by the end of the day.
Well, let's just face reality. Here we are, the majority of us that have these jobs where we are taking calls back to back to back, right? And you literally have the energy from one call that you can bring into another. And what I hear you saying is, as you are entering into a new call, you got to reset your intention and be present
100%.
and find a way to compartmentalize that energy. Is that what you're suggesting? Because what if it is a bad call you just came off of?
Right. So when we in our trainings, and you know, and this is something everyone can do right now. You don't have to do it in the training. Like, the training is to help you to integrate it and really use it and make it a habit, right? So, so one is, how do you set yourself up each morning to be in the green zone? What's one thing, two things, three things, doesn't have to take that much time, that you can do starting tomorrow morning that helps you feel good? This is not a to-do list, and it's not what someone else is expecting you to do. It's, what do you do to make sure that when you start your day, whether it's with kids or with work first, right? It kind of depends. What do you do to make sure that you're in the green zone? And you should have at least a couple things on there. And you should also recognize that it shifts and changes as we go through different seasons personally, as we go through different seasons in our professional jobs. You don't just make, we call it an integrity setup. You don't just make it and set it and leave it. Every day you're asking yourself, did this help me to get into the green zone before I started the day? And then the second piece of it, to Lonnie, your specific question, is also have a list of what we call reboots that you can do in the middle of the day. And you want to have some that are short, because you don't always have time. And you want to have ones that are maybe more major reboots. Like for me, a huge reboot is spending time in nature. Can I do that always? No. Right? So but it's on my reboot list because I know it's super powerful for me. So think about, and for anyone who says, I don't have the time to do a reboot in the middle of the day, I don't know if you've seen that. It's now several years old, but there's a McKinsey study, and it shows that executives in flow are 5 times more effective. So I would dedicate a little bit of time getting into flow, because you actually get that time back 5 times. You know, 5 times that you get it back.
Now we have 2 questions that I want to get to. How would you define SQ?
So the way that we define that is, it's really that that part of you that is meant to, like, you show up with these unique gifts in this world. There is no other person who has the constellation of gifts, experience, background, everything. You are unique, and that's to be celebrated. So it's, how am I showing up as me to serve in my unique way? So it could look it looks different for everyone, but the idea is that we're all born with gifts and then we develop gifts and so are you truly showing up and serving at your greatest capacity? Or is there a little feeling in there that, ooh, you know what? I kind of have this little inkling that I could do X, Y, Z, but I'm afraid, right? So the SQ is I am growing and serving at my highest capacity is the goal, which of course we never get to an end point. It's an evolution of growth.
I love that. And I just want to, I think Dr. Angela posed a question to the group. When you arrive, who shows up?
Yeah.
Right? It's a question. You know, we have to ask that of ourselves, right?
Exactly.
And then
as?
Who are we showing up as? I also see here, Bridget wrote, empathy does not exist in my workplace. And she gets her support and uplifting spirit away from the workplace. So
my first thing that I want to say to Bridget is that's part of the reason we founded 9Q is to help workplaces to really, truly create a space where people can feel good while doing good. So I'm really sorry that's you know that is the case. And there are things that you can do. It's harder. It's harder when you it's harder when you're in a team or in a setting where you're kind of the only one who wants that. But it is possible. And what I'm really happy about what you said is finding it outside. You're finding something that uplifts your spirit, so you haven't given up. So you are growing and expanding, and look at it as an evolution. And I don't think it will always be that way. And I love, you know, follow that treasure hunt of what uplifts your heart the way that you're doing right now.
I love that. And I just have to give a shout out to Brian. Hi, Brian. He said healthy habits are starting with gratitude to get into the green zone.
That's a really great one. And I'll say most of the people that I've worked with have some form of having a gratitude practice. It can look very, very different, right? And it can be very simple, it can be elaborate, it can be written, there are many, many different ways. But whether it be, and we also talk about setting up the night before, right? So sometimes people do it the night before because it helps them to get a better sleep, to really go through and get really clear on what they're grateful for. Huge. And honestly, this is something you can do in between those meetings, what you were talking about, Lonnie. You could just think of one thing that you really appreciate or you're really grateful for, and I will guarantee you feel a shift in energy. It might not be all the way, you know, full green zone, which is like a 10 on our scale, but it will help. You know, and anyone who tells me that they don't have time, I used to consult at a medical center. I worked along the ICU team, the ER team, the palliative care team. So really high intensity, you know, those physicians going from room to room, they have time, but time to pause in the threshold of the door and not necessarily, but let go, Lonnie, let go of whatever trauma had been in that room prior. Take one breath, be present, and be able to bring them their full selves to that next patient and patient's family sometimes. And if they can do it, everyone can do it. Because they're
do that. That's so true. Just even taking a deep breath, right?
Yep.
A slow deep breath in and exhaling. So one of the things that I remember in our conversation, we were talking about just different little practices you can have. Before you share the last tip, I would love for you to share just little things like that, other things that they can do to do a reboot and or how they might start their day. You have to share with everyone. We were talking about how we start the day. You want to share it, or you want me to share that one about the candle?
I'll share it because I like to share it because I'm not a morning person. I would much rather have sleep time than to have an elaborate, we call it an integrity setup. So I'm looking for what are the things, again, this is the question that I want everyone to ask themselves. What are the little things that I can do that can help me feel my best? And one of the things I had shared with Lonnie that I do a meditation, but when I physically get out of bed, I light a candle. And for me, the lighting of the candle, even if I blow it out 60 seconds later, which often I do, um, but for me, the action of lighting a candle and seeing the light, it reminds me of the light inside of me, which is really important in the work that I do. I would say it's important for everyone, but I can't be doing the work I'm doing if I don't remember there's light in me to be shared. And it reminds me that everyone I'm going to interact with during the day, and I mean everyone, even if they're difficult interactions, it reminds me of the light inside of them. And so for me, it's a really beautiful setup. I feel really good when I do that.
Now I'm laughing because I said, oh, I got some work to do. Remember? I said, I like my candle because I like the way it smells. And I told her, I said, I guess I need to be more involved. I need to look at the candle and think about the lighting. So I want you to know, since that conversation, I did do that, and I still enjoyed the aroma as well.
But that's the thing. What I love about this, and this is for everyone to hear this, yours is going to look differently. Lonnie loves the smell. I love the smell too, but and I can appreciate it. But for me, for whatever reason, that's what clicks. And what I love about what Lonnie you just shared, you tried it out. You tried it out, right? You tried it out like this, and for you, and I think I said to you, the candle, that smell throughout the day is a reboot, because that's the other piece of it. You do the integrity setup in the morning, but inevitably something's going to happen during the day that might knock you down a couple notches. So you want to have something in the middle of the day that you can do. And you, even if you don't have that much time, taking a deep breath and being aware of the smell, right? Just being aware of the smell. And because you have a connection to that feels good. Mm-hmm. And so, lots of different things. Sometimes people put exercise in their morning setup, but that's only if it feels good to you, not because you feel like you have to, right? Some people will write in a journal. Some people will sit outside away from, the rest of the family and have a cup of coffee alone and reflect on the things that matter to them, what their heart, what makes their heart smile, or what they're grateful for. Just spending a little bit of time with something that feels really good for you. And any of those can, depending on circumstances, you got to have a list of reboots that are different. Some people, I used to tell families who had loved ones that were, on the palliative care service, and I would say you need to find something that helps, the family members. You need to find something that helps you to be able to be here with your loved one, your spouse, your child, your parent, and they didn't want to leave the hospital. But I would say if you could even just walk outside for 60 seconds and feel the sun, if there's sun, or feel the rain or the mist or the wind. Like we use a lot of the elements of nature in our training for 30 seconds. And just it what it does is it reconnects you with a bigger picture. And for most everyone, when you go too focused in on a problem, that's when your anxiety and stress levels rise. And when you can go out and look at it as more as a bigger picture, you will usually feel a little bit better. There's a little bit less stress around it.
I love that. You have one last tip.
Yeah.
And I think this last tip is going to be so easy for some, but it is the one that is the most difficult to practice. So you want to share the last tip?
Yeah, it's so easy to say, and everyone knows it, but really a challenge. And this is, again, you're building resilience, right? So it doesn't mean you have to do it perfectly. Just learn to say no. Mm-hmm. Learn to say no, and you're saying no to the things. Now, I get it. Sometimes we have to say yes to things that might not turn us on. But if you go back to the bigger picture about what it connects to, I don't get turned on by doing my taxes, but I love when they're done. So for me, bigger picture, want to get them done, do it. So sometimes we have things we don't love doing, but really, the more clear you get on what matters to you, what makes your heart happy, what makes your heart smile, and start to notice and really take the opportunity to say no when something doesn't light you up inside. And it's not easy. It's simple to say, but it's not easy. It's a practice.
Yeah.
How are
Yeah.
you on that, Lonnie?
Getting much better.
No, it's awesome.
I have seasons. I have seasons where I do it extremely well, and I have seasons where, like right now, I'm in one of those seasons where the demand is really high. And so I just have had to be very intentional about how I'm using my time because I have a lot of things on me right now. But I am getting much better at prioritizing and saying no so that I can do what I need to do. One of the things that comes to mind, and we have about 9 minutes left, and hey, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. I'm paying attention and I want to acknowledge you out there. And if you want to come live with Dr. Laura, just let us know and we'll get you a link. But Dr. Laura, I do recall getting a note from someone who said that they just had a lot of opposition and they are stuck. They are frustrated, things haven't worked out for them, and they just feel like they can't win. And what would you say to that person, right? That's stuck, that seems like they continue to have one disappointment after the other. What would you advise them to do to get unstuck?
You know, and again, it's I can go big, but obviously everyone's situation is different. First thing I want to say, it's kind of back to what I said earlier, where when something is challenging, we think once we get through it, we're home free, and sometimes everything just starts piling on top, and it does feel like you're drowning. It feels like no matter what I do to move forward, I just get pushed back. And so I want to acknowledge the reality of that feeling, right? Because I think most of us have had that feeling at some time or another. There's one thing that I sometimes suggest to people, which seems a little bit contrary, but it's kind of fun and it often makes people laugh. If you're just having a really, again, it depends. Like, is this what period of time is? You know, there's some specifics, but it's okay to just have a bad day, and it's okay to have. I say, like, just plan a pity party or just cry, like, but ask yourself, how much time do I need to do that? Because what the scary thing is, people don't want it to consume them, don't want it to overtake their life. But when they're afraid of those feelings, they sometimes try to push them down, and they actually have more power over us when we don't address them straight up. So it sounds kind of contrary, but hey, you know what? Sometimes life does just suck. I'm sorry. It does. Look, I have sat with many different families in my consulting in the hospital, and then working with the teams that are helping these families. You know, having people die day after day is quite draining for a medical team. So how can we, you know, and sometimes you just need to cry and just go, God, there's so much sadness in the world. Like, I feel the sadness in the world right now. If I let myself stay there, it would consume me. But it also is an indicator to me. So the other piece of it is, there's a message for you in those feelings, whether it's anger, frustration, overwhelm, you know, sadness. There's some information for you, and if you can think of this as a process, building your resilience, moving forward, you know what? It's okay to feel sad or frustrated or angry sometimes. So then, being able to go, like for me, when my mom died, it would have been easy to just check out. I wanted to show up for my kids. That was really important to me. I also had this little thing in the back of my mind that I was supposed to serve. I was really supposed to help people to feel better in the world. So the connecting to something that really matters to you and finding some way of developing that, even in the midst of the chaos and negative that you're in, is going to help you to build, I don't know, go back to the candle and the light. It's going to help you build your light up so that you can feel it, right? So it's not going to just be over tomorrow, but what is it that fuels you or makes you feel good? And that's your lifeline, right? That's going to give you an indicator of where to go, because the truth is we cannot control what's happening around us. We can only control what's happening within us. We have a question about candle frame.
Let me say this about the statement you just made. And to the person who sent that question in to me, I could not agree more with the fact that sometimes you can have a bad day.
Yeah.
And you feel like life sucks. So I want to acknowledge that. I think we've all been there. I know I've been there, and I know what that feels like. And to just give yourself a time limit, I love that you said that. That just allow yourself to feel that, cry, get upset, whatever it is, but put a time limit on it. That's what I heard you say, and I agree with that. And then the next thing is to shift the energy out, some of my language, but I think that's the point that you made. And find that thing that kind of lights you up inside and makes your heart smile, and try to begin to slowly shift your energy so that you can begin to, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, to pull yourself out of, whatever dungeon or valley you find yourself in that you can't get out. I think you're going to help a lot of people with those tips, because right now I had a colleague share with me, and I'll be brief. I had a colleague tell me that among her family and among the community of the organization she leads, she had lost 40 people through this pandemic. In her family alone, it has surpassed about 10.
Wow.
And I had that moment when we were on the phone, and I said, how in the world are you keeping it together? And she said, some days I just have to let my heart break.
Yep. And giving yourself permission to do that is a really incredible gift. And sometimes we can be so hard on ourselves, right? Like, somehow I'm supposed to get over this, or somehow whatever, I'm supposed to be feeling better. And if it doesn't happen that dramatically, we can be hard on ourselves for not doing it well enough. It's like, sometimes and that's why I give people permission, right? I give them permission, and I ask them, how much time do you need? How much time do you need to grieve this way right now? Not that it's over, but right when something comes up. I had one of my kids was in a really bad place a number of years ago, and boy, did I have to draw on that resilience from when my mom died. And I just thought, I just needed to scream, because I needed to scream because I had he was no longer a little boy that I had some control. I had zero control over what was happening. And that was so scary as a mom, watching your child do something that you could see how that could lead to death, and, fortunately it didn't for him. But I'll tell you, with COVID, he has had a number of his peers, they're gone. And, we're not talking about that very much right now, about what's happening with all of our kids. But it's just it's a heartbreaking time. So I have moments where I just have to cry. I have moments where I scream.
But you do whatever you have to do, right?
Yeah. So,
oh my goodness. Yeah. So we're coming up on our time, and this has been like, where did the time go? And I feel that way every time I talk to you. And I really want to say thank you. Thank you for reserving space to be able to share with this group unselfishly around how do we build that resilience, right? In times of disruption. And I think you gave some very practical tips that we all could apply. I know that at 9Q, you have some training. Ashley's going to make that available to everyone, and she'll share the link. I want everyone to follow you on LinkedIn and follow 9Q on LinkedIn. I think you're going to find they've got some incredible content, 2 incredible leaders that I think you all can learn from. I want to thank you for just the way you show up in the world, and the type of mother you are, the type of partner you are, and more importantly, I want to thank you for the friend you are to me. And I look forward to doing this thing called life with you and going through life with you and learning from you and continuing to share with you. And I know my community here is grateful. Why don't you guys show your love? I see some thank yous, and we just thank you for making time for us. And I know you've helped a lot of people, and as you know, a lot of people listen to the video after the session. So stay tuned. I'm sure there's going to be a lot shared.
Well, Lonnie, thank you. And any time spent with you is always such, it's always so uplifting. And I hope that everyone here that's joining us can feel that connection that we have and know that, you know, it doesn't always happen in every relationship, but just keep your eyes and ears and your heart open for those very special people. And Lonnie, you're one of those for me, and I consider you my friend. And thank you so much.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of my community for coming. I really appreciate you hanging in here with us. I hope you were able to walk away with at least one tip. Before you take off, please know that we did record this session. We will make it available to you on LinkedIn, and we will have it posted on YouTube. But before you go, if you could type in one thing you took away from the day, put it in the chat. I know Dr. Laura and myself would love to see that. Hi, Siobhan. So glad you were able to come. You said this was amazing. Thank you for your authenticity and insights, Dr. Laura. Thank you. So I hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you are around the world. And thank you again, Dr. Laura. And I look forward to spending time with you again soon, okay?
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye.